This is the Building Men podcast. My name is Dennis Meralda. A little bit different of an episode today. I record this episode on November 11th, 2020. Decided not to do a big intro. I'm not going to do any poems or any quotes. I'm just going to share a story from this morning. For the last 4 months or so, I drive between Bordentown, New Jersey, and New Hope, Pennsylvania, from my house to my brother's house. Going through a divorce right now. I live, when my kids are home, I'm with my kids about 3 days a week, and then I spend the rest of the time at my brother's house in New Hope, Pennsylvania. And it's been a tough ride. I drive from Bordentown to New Hope, and it's Route 29 goes through Trenton. And on this drive, twice a week, I see a couple men that are standing out on the side of the road near a busy intersection, holding signs, asking for handouts for food. And I drive by these men, and sometimes I stop and roll down the window and I give them a couple quarters. Sometimes I just drive by, don't even really make eye contact with them. And I don't know what it was recently, but I just started thinking about their journey, their plight. And I don't know if I was kind of caught up over the last, who knows, months, years of my life, where you're so focused on your own needs, right? That's human nature, right? You think about what you need for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones. And I've really tried to take a step back, especially recently, and think about other people and other people's journeys and plights. And, maybe one thing went wrong in someone's life and they ended up in a difficult situation. So I drive past these men, and I've driven past them, probably 50 times over the past couple months. And this morning, I'm driving from my brother's house back to Bordentown, and there's a line of cars. It's near Trenton Thunder Stadium, if you're familiar with New Jersey at all. It's near the stadium, and there's a line of cars in front of me, and there was a BMW, and a guy rolled down the window and he just threw food out of the window and onto the ground. And a man went and picked it up and put it into a bag. And I saw that and just kind of broke down. So I pulled off to the side of the road, pulled into the stadium parking lot. And I got out of the car and I walked over and I just said, "Can I help you? Is there anything that I can do to help you right now?" And so the man that I talked to, his name was Kyle. There were two other men around that I talked to that they did not want their names used at all. And so Kyle, at first he was a little bit taken back that I walked over to him. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'4", about 215, 220 pounds. And he was a smaller man. He had a face mask on, and he was, very disheveled looking, and he had a bag and it had some food in it. And I just said, what can I do to help you? And he said, if there's any work, I could use some work. I could do landscaping. I could do manual labor. So I said, listen, Kyle, I want to help you. I want to do what I can do to help you. I said, I have this podcast, and the podcast it's called Building Men. And I said, maybe I could, do a recording of you and say, hey, is there anyone around here that can help out Kyle, or his two friends here, if anybody knows of anyone who can help. And he got just the look on his face changed. He said, don't record me. Please don't record me or take a picture of me. And I said, okay, no problem. I won't do that. But he got choked up and he said, there's been a lot of times that people will drive by and they'll throw shit out of their car at them, or they'll just yell obscenities at them. Get a fucking job, you bum, you scumbag. Just yelling at these men who are standing on the side of the road, just asking for help. And so Kyle's sign basically said, "Please help me," and then it said, "God bless." And he said there have been times where people got out of their car and they went up to him and recorded themselves with him in the background, and they were basically humiliating him on video. And so he said he's been hit with things and hurt by people, and so that was his initial reaction, being scared, was just the way that he felt when he saw me walking out towards him. So I talked with Kyle for a couple minutes. I gave him and his friends all the cash that I had on me at the time, and I just said, I'm going to just reach out to anyone who will listen and just say, hey, if there's anything that you can do to help, and maybe not just Kyle specifically or the other men that were around him, but and they're, like I said, they're in Trenton. I'm going to try to go back there with food tomorrow morning. I told him I would be back just to bring him something. But I started to think about how many times in my life have I, driven by? How many times have I, not even acknowledged? And the thing that Kyle said to me that like really got me was, he said, even if you can't help me, even if you couldn't help me, he said, you looked at me. He said, people drive by here all the time and they look down at their phones, or they look away, or they pretend that I'm not here and they don't see me. He said, I feel so ashamed of myself and how I'm in this situation now. But when you came up to me and talked to me, he said, at least I felt like you saw me as a human being. And so it really made me think about how many times in my own life have I driven by or walked by someone in the street who I know needed help, and I pretended not to see them, and I looked the other way, or I pretended to be on my phone or have a conversation with someone because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable around someone who needed help. And maybe you can't help everyone. Maybe you don't have the financial resources to give or to do something to help another person. But goddamn, you could at least look at them, acknowledge that they're human beings, right? Imagine how much, it takes guts to be able to ask for help. And it really impacted me this morning when I think about, in my own life, and, how selfish I guess I've been at different points in my life. I'm so worried about, I need to, make sure I leave a little extra time so I can get to Starbucks to get a nitro cold brew, because that's going to make my day, and go spend $4 on a damn cup of coffee, when there's someone, living 5 miles away from me that is picking food up off of the ground to feed himself. And I just decided right at that moment, you know what? I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to not acknowledge someone, just even, saying hello, or, recognizing their value as another human being on this planet. Because like I said, there have been times when I didn't do that, and I just felt, who am I to not acknowledge another's presence as a fellow person in the world right now? And what I'm asking of anyone who's listening to this podcast today. If anything that I said, even spoke to you, even in a small way, maybe take an opportunity to do something for someone else, with no expectation of something in return. Just do something out of the kindness of your heart to make someone else's day a little bit better. And say if 200 people listen to this podcast and each one of those people does something nice for someone else, maybe there's this groundswell of paying it forward, and people will start taking care of each other just a little bit more. I just decided this morning that's going to be part of Building Men's mission. Is what I try to do during this podcast is to help people understand different things that are going on in their own lives. Maybe there's a couple strategies that I've learned in my experience over the last 43 and a half years that might be able to help a couple people along their own journeys. But then I also realized Building Men could be geared also towards maybe helping people who have had a bad turn in their life or who are down on their luck in some way. And maybe if everyone, takes a little bit and, even a little bit of time and goes and talks to someone, or, is there anything that I can do to help you out? Or maybe there's someone that you can point in a direction of someone else who could help someone. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of rambling here, but moral of the story is if everyone just takes an opportunity just to do one nice thing, one kind thing for someone else, just think of how powerful that can be. And I was just really moved by that experience this morning, and I just needed to record a podcast immediately. And I'll publish this podcast, and please reach out to me if maybe if this speaks to you, or if there's someone out there that needs help, that maybe I could help them in some way, or if you are interested in helping someone else out, maybe we can start a way to connect people that want to get involved in helping other people. So you could email me. It's buildingmencoach@gmail.com. And on Instagram, it's building.men. I appreciate everyone who's listening out there and everyone who's commented or even forwarded my podcast or the Instagram to other people. I'm on this journey to become the best me I can possibly be, and maybe I could help other people along the way. So expressing love and gratitude to everyone out there. I'll see you next time on Building Men.